Okay, so imagine this. You're standing right at the absolute top of your game. Maybe you're a world-famous athlete, a global icon.
Yeah, everyone thinks you've got it all figured out.
Exactly, invincible beyond doubt. But then, late at night, the spotlights are off, nobody's watching. Your phone rings.
Mhm.
And on the line, it's this desperate voice saying, "Need some help. How soon can you get here?"
Wow.
Yeah, and this isn't some casual call. It's described as a full-on crisis call, needing an emergency psychological kick in the ass.
That phrase really hits hard.
It does, and the sources, they paint this picture. Some of these incredibly elite people, they show up expecting maybe some light stretches, paperwork.
Yeah, the usual routine stuff.
Right, and then boom, within the first hour, they're sweating through 3 t-shirts, maybe even puking into a trash can.
That's intense. It really shows the gap between perception and reality.
It really does. It's the unvarnished truth, isn't it? What it actually takes to perform at that absolute highest level where, talent meets this incredibly intense, sometimes brutal intervention.
Yeah, and what's truly illuminating, I think, is that even these figures, the ones who seem unbreakable, completely celebrated, they can hit a wall.
Totally.
Despite all the natural ability, all the past wins, they get overwhelmed. Frustration, maybe self-doubt, just the sheer emotional weight of what they're trying to do.
It's a huge waste.
It absolutely is. And it just fundamentally underscores that performing at this elite level, it's not just physical. It's profoundly mental.
Right.
That internal story you tell yourself, the ability to stay focused, the resilience to handle that immense pressure, that's what really sets them apart. And even they sometimes need this radical reset, a recalibration.
So today, we're taking a deep dive into exactly that, into what it truly means to be, well, relentless. And our insights, they come straight from someone who's been right there in the trenches with some of the most unstoppable people the world's ever seen. We're talking legends like Michael Jordan, Kobe Bryant, Dwyane Wade.
Yeah, the absolute icons.
Absolutely. And what you're going to find is it's a philosophy that really challenges a lot of the conventional wisdom about motivation. Forget the fluffy stuff, the talk about passion or inner drive.
Right, the source is very explicit about it.
Super explicit, cuts right through it. Says, what you won't find in this book is a lot of garbage about passion and inner drive. And then this kicker. I don't have any feel-good strategies for dreamers who love to talk about thinking outside the box. There is no box.
Wow. There is no box. That's quite a statement.
Isn't it? So our mission today is really to strip away all those platitudes, get to the unvarnished truth about what really drives the world's best, and crucially, show you how these pretty uncompromising principles might apply to your own life, how you can find that extra gear when everyone else feels like they've had enough.
And that perspective, it really forces us to ask this pivotal question, doesn't it? If those common motivators, passion, inner drive, if they're dismissed as just not enough, then what's left? What's the real engine for that kind of sustained elite performance?
Exactly.
So we'll explore how this whole viewpoint reshapes how we even think about success. It kind of compels you, the listener, to look beyond those easy explanations and really confront the true, often, let's face it, uncomfortable requirements for becoming unstoppable.
Yeah, uncomfortable is definitely a word that comes up.
Right. So this deep dive, it aims to pull out those core principles that go way beyond just the sports arena. They've got profound applications everywhere, business challenges, daily life, any pursuit, really. Ultimately, we're asking, what's the real source of that ultimate power, and how do you unlock it in yourself?
Okay, so let's get into this core philosophy of relentlessness. And it starts, as we said, with a pretty stark challenge to what most of us think of as motivation. It's really not about collecting inspiring quotes or, spending hours thinking outside the box.
Right. Forget the box entirely.
Exactly. The source is just brutally direct. There is no box. And that's not just a catchy phrase, is it? It feels like a foundational principle. It means you've got to move past just thinking about things.
It's about doing.
Yes, doing something, instead of just getting stuck thinking about thinking. The guide is crystal clear. This approach isn't for the dreamers. It's for people ready to actually commit to action. And his definition of relentlessness, it's unvarnished. It's about demanding more from yourself than anyone else possibly could, constantly pushing, always driven by knowing that every time you stop, you can still do more.
Wow. There's no ceiling there.
None at all. For someone truly relentless, the instinct is always just next. What's next?
Yeah, and if we connect that to the bigger picture, human achievement, it suggests that this true relentlessness, it's less an emotion you feel.
Right, it's not a mood.
Exactly. It's more a state of active commitment.
Yeah.
It's like you strip away all the sentimentality from chasing your goals.
All the warm fuzzies gone.
Pretty much. Just singular focus on tangible results. It really highlights how feelings, moods, they fluctuate, right? They go up and down. But that commitment to keep acting, that has to be unwavering.
So it bypasses the emotional side.
It deliberately does.
Yeah.
It shifts the whole conversation from the abstract why, the philosophy of motivation, to the very concrete how, the practical, results-driven effort you need to put in. It's just pure, unadulterated execution.
And our sources, they're incredibly clear on another really critical distinction here. Success isn't just about talent. It's about finding and then consistently using an extra gear.
That's key.
They say, flat out, the world is full of incredibly talented people who never succeed at anything. And that's not just, a casual comment. It feels like a deep truth.
It really lands, doesn't it?
It does, because talent, in this view, it's just the starting block. And actually, ironically, it can sometimes be a hindrance.
How so?
Well, if things don't go perfectly, someone who's really talented might instinctively start blaming other things, right? Thinking their natural gifts should have been enough.
Right. It should have worked because I'm talented.
Exactly. But it's not enough. The real game changer, the thing that separates the truly elite from the just gifted, it's finding and using that extra gear.
That deeper level.
Yeah. It's not about being pretty good. It's this insatiable, continuous drive to improve. A total refusal to ever be satisfied with where you are right now. It's that deep internal well of drive that pushes you way past pretty good into that rare territory of the truly unstoppable.
And that insight, it forces us to ask that crucial question again. If natural talent isn't the main differentiator for long-term success, then what actually is?
Right. What's the secret sauce, if not talent?
And the source implies pretty strongly that it's rooted in this deep commitment to constantly improving yourself, cultivating an internal standard that just dwarfs any external expectations or even what the public thinks.
So it's an inside job.
Completely. It's recognizing that, innate ability is a gift, sure, but it's just the foundation. True mastery isn't inherent. It's meticulously forged. Through relentless effort and this almost desperate desire to constantly push past every single perceived limit.
That word desperate is interesting, like a real hunger.
Exactly. So this perspective, it totally shifts the focus from what you were born with to what you consistently do with whatever gifts you have.
Okay, now this next principle. This one really shakes up how we usually think about growth. And honestly, it might feel deeply uncomfortable for a lot of people listening.
Yeah, this is where it gets pretty raw.
It really does.
Yeah.
Our guide, he doesn't mince words at all when it comes to the path to mastery. The central, completely uncompromising theme is this. You have to be comfortable being uncomfortable.
Simple but profound.
And it's not just about, tough workouts. It applies to every single challenging choice you face in life.
Across the board.
Yeah. And he bluntly contrasts this with society's constant search for shortcuts, for ease. He says any workout that uses words like easy or comfort, aren't workouts, they're insults.
Insults, that's strong language.
Isn't it? And to really hammer this home, he gives this incredibly vivid, almost shocking example, this hardcore sugar detox program.
Oh, yeah, I remember reading that. It's intense.
Intense is an understatement. He describes people getting these debilitating headaches, feeling like they want to throw up, twitching, getting hot and cold sweats, terrible gas, crazy thirst. And then he says they get shakes that only heroin and cocaine addicts can understand.
Wow. That really paints a picture of extreme discomfort.
It absolutely does. And you have to ask, why on earth would anyone put themselves through that?
Right. What's the payoff?
And the answer, according to the source, is that those very symptoms, that intense withdrawal, that's the undeniable proof of your commitment.
Okay. It's a sign it's working.
Exactly. It's the sign you're actively breaking free from those comforting but ultimately damaging habits. You're literally forcing your body and mind into this state of profound growth. It's all about cultivating such an intense craving for the result.
The end goal.
Yeah, the end goal. That the massive work and the intense discomfort needed to get there just become irrelevant.
That's a powerful reframing. It's like the discomfort becomes the compass pointing towards progress.
Precisely.
What's genuinely striking here is that deliberate, almost audacious embrace of discomfort, both physical and mental, as absolutely foundational, essential for real progress.
Yeah, it flies in the face of everything we're usually told.
Completely. It directly challenges that pervasive societal desire for ease, instant gratification, effortless results. This perspective argues that the discomfort you feel during self-improvement isn't just preferable, it's absolutely necessary,
Hmm.
especially when you compare it to that lingering, deep discomfort that comes from failure or stagnation or just inaction.
The discomfort of regret, maybe.
Exactly. It delivers this powerful message.
Hmm.
Real transformation doesn't happen inside your comfort zone. It happens precisely on the other side of what feels unbearable
Yeah.
and your body's fierce resistance. That's actually a key sign that deep, meaningful change is happening.
So lean into the resistance, basically.
That seems to be the core message. It highlights this belief that growth isn't some gentle, gradual slope. It's often a brutal, hard-earned climb.
So how does this relentless philosophy, this embrace of discomfort, translate into the day-to-day, the practical discipline?
Well, the answer is brutally simple
Mm-hmm.
and totally non-negotiable.
Which is?
Do work.
Simple as that.
Simple as that. There's no glamour to it. It's just, at its core, a relentless daily grind. The sources really emphasize this uncompromising nature of consistent effort. Every day, you have to do something you don't want to do. Every day.
Every single day. No days off from discomfort.
Apparently not. And he explains this insidious compounding effect of procrastination, of letting things slide. If you let yourself skip today's unpleasant task, he warns, the next day you're going to have 2 things you don't want to do, then 3 and 4 and 5.
Oh, man, that sounds overwhelming.
Right. It creates these increasingly huge physical and mental hurdles. He even jokes, kind of, that for his elite clients, he becomes the thing they don't want to do.
Huh. The daily dose of discomfort personified.
Exactly. It highlights this consistent mandatory engagement with discomfort as a daily discipline. And you see this level of commitment in the actions of the truly elite.
Like who?
Well, think about Kobe Bryant. Even at the absolute peak of his incredible career, he dedicated a full 30 minutes of his intense 90-minute workouts just meticulously training his wrists, fingers, and ankles.
30 minutes just on those small parts.
30 minutes. It's what the source calls sweating the details, making sure every tiny component is optimized.
Oh.
And then you have Michael Jordan. By Labor Day each year, he'd systematically shut down everything else, all outside distractions gone. He committed himself to this intense schedule. 3 distinct workouts a day. The only breaks were for golf, meals, and sleep.
3 workouts a day, that's insane dedication.
It is. It's about absolutely refusing to let even the smallest things slide, maintaining this constant state of peak physical and mental readiness.
So it raises that question again, doesn't it? In our world, always pushing instant gratification, quick fixes, how do you actually cultivate that deep, almost obsessive patience, that discipline for tedious, repetitive excellence?
Yeah, it's the million-dollar question, right? And the source profoundly suggests that this level of commitment isn't born from some fleeting inspiration. It comes from an insatiable, deep-seated hunger for tangible results.
Did that addiction to the result again?
Exactly.
Yeah.
A hunger that fundamentally goes way beyond any desire for comfort or immediate reward. It's about truly getting it, internalizing that the cumulative effect of all these seemingly small, uncomfortable daily actions. It creates this unstoppable compounding force over time.
Little hinges swing big doors.
Precisely. It's a philosophy that clearly prioritizes consistent, almost ritualistic engagement with discomfort, whether that's in the gym, the office, or anywhere else demanding. It unequivocally states that true mastery is built painstakingly, brick by brick, through a relentless commitment to those often mundane, uncomfortable details that most people just instinctively avoid.
Okay, so our sources don't just talk about elite performance in general terms. They actually categorize it. They give us this framework to understand different levels of competitive drive.
Right, which is really helpful.
Totally. We get introduced to 3 distinct archetypes, and they're defined by how they approach challenges. You've got the cooler, the closer, and then
Cleaner. Closer, cleaner.
yeah. And each one plays a role in any high-stakes situation. But as we're going to see, only one of them truly owns the final outcome.
Okay, so let's break them down. The cooler first.
Yeah, let's start there.
So a cooler emerges as someone who's actually pretty good at managing a certain amount of pressure. They're good at keeping things calm, stable, but their role is inherently more reactive.
How so? Reactive.
They're careful. They tend to wait for explicit instructions. They watch others, see who the leader is, and then they align themselves. They function best as mediators, not really as the primary decision makers.
So not taking the lead.
Generally not. They typically avoid taking sides unless they're absolutely forced to. And while they can sometimes make a big play, They're fundamentally not responsible for the overall ultimate outcome. They are basically the crucial setup players, making sure everything's in place for someone else to finish the job.
Okay, the setup guy. Got it. So what about the closer then?
Right. Moving up the chain, we get the closer.
This individual, they can handle immense pressure. And they will reliably get the job done if they're put in the right situation and told exactly what needs to happen.
Okay, so they need the right conditions.
Pretty much. Our source points to LeBron James, especially earlier in his career, as someone who, despite his obvious, incredible talent, kind of fit this closer profile.
Interesting.
Yeah. Closers are meticulous. They study countless scenarios so they can expertly anticipate what might happen. But they tend to get uncomfortable, less effective when something unexpected happens, something outside their plan.
Ah, so they don't like curveballs.
Not really. They're also characterized by this distinct desire for attention, for credit. They're very aware of what others around them are doing, what people think of them. And there's this tendency mentioned to prioritize financial security over just the pure pursuit of winning or success itself.
That's a key distinction.
It is. The source draws it sharply. A closer can take the winning shot, but the cleaner gets him on the team and makes sure the ball is in his hands when it needs to be there.
Wow. Okay, that really clarifies the difference in roles. But it immediately raises that question for me. The closer's drive, is it mostly external, fueled by wanting recognition, money, praise? Or is there still that internal fire for success just for its own sake?
Yeah, where does the motivation come from?
And the source seems to lean heavily towards the external, right? Especially mentioning prioritizing financial security over just winning.
Yeah, that detail stood out.
It suggests that while a closer is definitely highly effective, but under specific defined conditions, their motivation might be inherently tied to those external rewards. That makes them less adaptable, maybe less driven, when the plan goes completely off script.
So their comfort with predictability is actually a limitation.
Exactly. Especially when the situation demands real innovation, solving problems on the fly.
Okay, now this is where it gets really fascinating. The cleaner archetype, the unstoppable force, the embodiment of this whole relentless idea.
Right, the top of the pyramid.
Absolutely. And their core identity, it's captured in just 3 words. I own this, isn't it? A cleaner walks into any situation just radiating this unwavering confidence, and they consistently leave having delivered undeniable results. They've got this rare mix of sheer guts and clear vision that lets them just unilaterally steer everything to their advantage.
They're not just doing a job.
No way.
Yeah.
They fundamentally reinvent it. When everyone else is descending into chaos and panic, the cleaner is the absolute last resort.
Yeah.
The one person who can actually handle it when no one else can.
The go-to in a crisis.
Totally. And there's no hesitant talk, no panic, no endless debating from them. When things go sideways, pressure's mounting, the cleaner stays calm, utterly unflappable. Cool, steady, never too high, never too low.
Emotionally regulated.
Extremely.
Yeah.
They have this unique ability to see no problems, only situations to resolve. And critically, when they spot the solution, they don't waste precious time explaining how they're going to do it.
They just act.
They just look at the mess and say, I got this. And then when it's all done, results deliver. Everyone else is just standing there shaking their heads, wondering how on earth they managed it.
What's really fascinating there is the complete de-emotionalization of the whole process for the cleaner. Their drive, it's not rooted in some fluctuating passion for the work itself.
Right. Not about loving the grind necessarily.
Exactly. It's a deep, almost physiological addiction to the result. Which brings up that critical question. What are the deep psychological implications of having such an extreme, singular focus on the outcome?
Yeah, what does that do to a person?
Because while others might be totally paralyzed by overanalyzing or indecision or just overwhelming emotion, the cleaner is already acting, already resolving the situation.
They're steps ahead.
Miles ahead, mentally. And that immediate, almost reflexive problem-solving ability. It's not innate, like raw talent. It's meticulously cultivated through relentless, often brutal preparation and this unwavering internal standard that just demands constant decisive action.
Okay, so to really get our heads around the cleaner, the sources give us this list. They call it the Relentless 13. 13 core characteristics that define this archetype.
Right, the defining traits.
Yeah. Let's really dig into a few of these, unpack the nuances, see how they play out in the real world.
Sounds good. Where do we start?
Let's start with this one. You keep pushing yourself harder when everyone else has had enough.
The endurance factor?
Exactly. And it's not just a catchy phrase, it's how a cleaner lives. Think back to Bryant's dedication. we mentioned the 90-minute workouts.
Right, with 30 minutes just on wrists, fingers, ankles.
Yes. That wasn't about bulking up. It was about obsessively fine-tuning every tiny detail of his game, pushing way beyond what most athletes would even think is necessary. It's about microscopic, continuous improvement in the most granular stuff.
Sweating the small stuff intensely.
Totally. And you see it with Michael Jordan, too. Even right after winning a championship, he'd be telling Tim Grover, our guide, what they needed to work on for the next season.
Already focused on the future.
Instantly. He was apparently buzzing about baseball workouts a full year before he even took that break to play baseball. The source says he was never satisfied, never content, always pushing higher and higher. It just embodies that relentless need for more.
Yeah, that unwavering commitment to pushing past perceived limits. Even when everyone else is exhausted or celebrating. It's such a defining trait.
It really is.
It powerfully reveals this internal wellspring of motivation that's completely separate from external praise or rest or even basic comfort. It's driven by this perpetual, insatiable hunger for the next level, the next win, the next challenge.
Always climbing.
Always. It embodies that unwavering internal standard that just constantly pushes beyond any past achievement. It really brings that always wanting more idea to life.
Yeah.
You know, in a business context, this might be the CEO who, after a record quarter, immediately pivots to the next big disruption.
Or the artist who finishes a masterpiece and is already messing with a new technique.
Exactly. Perpetual motion towards the next thing.
Okay. Next, from the Relentless 13. You get into the zone, you shut out everything else, and control the uncontrollable.
Ah, the zone. The almost mythical state.
Right. And Michael Jordan was apparently the master of this. When he stepped onto the court, he had this almost supernatural ability to just completely shut everything out.
Everything.
Everything. The deafening crowds, the intense media glare, even profound personal stuff like the death of his father. He just focused solely on his mission, attack and conquer. The source says he literally formed a perfect boundary around himself where nothing goes in except what he brings with him.
Wow. Like a mental fortress.
Exactly. Dwyane Wade, when healthy, also had this incredible ability to just flip a switch, step onto the court, and instantly forget everything outside the game.
So the zone for a cleaner, it's not about thinking harder?
No, quite the opposite. It's about being so prepared, so deeply immersed, that your actions become pure instinct, unburdened by any external noise or internal chatter.
That concept of the zone as pure, unthinking instinct, rather than some heightened state of conscious focus, that's utterly fascinating.
It changes how you think about it, right?
It really does. It strongly suggests that true mastery isn't achieved through more mental effort or overanalysis. It's achieved through the profound ability to eliminate all distractions, just letting those meticulously trained reflexes and intuition take complete control.
Getting out of your own way.
Precisely. That capacity to block out everything, personal grief, crowd noise, whatever, lets the cleaner operate with unparalleled focus and emotional detachment. Their performance isn't compromised by external pressures or internal turmoil because they've built this almost automatic mental shield.
You can see how that applies everywhere. A surgeon in a complex operation.
Absolutely. Or a programmer deep in a flow state, just effortlessly creating code. Total immersion.
Okay, another crucial one. You're not intimidated by pressure, you thrive on it.
Ah, the pressure cooker.
Yeah, and the source is unequivocal. Pressure can bust pipes, but it can also make diamonds. While most of us instinctively try to avoid stress, get away from high-pressure situations,
Cleaners actively seek it out.
they embrace it. Sometimes they even intentionally create scenarios to jack up the pressure even higher just to challenge themselves, to prove what they can do under the toughest conditions.
Testing themselves constantly.
Constantly. We saw that rare glimpse of vulnerability, remember, with LeBron James biting his nails in the 2012 finals, a fleeting sign of cracking under that immense pressure.
Right, a human moment.
But his ability to rally and come back strong showed his underlying resilience. A true cleaner, though, according to this, they don't just recover, they welcome that pressure. They deliberately use it as fuel to hone their skills, sharpen their edge, elevate their performance.
That radical reframing of pressure, turning it from something potentially debilitating into this powerful catalyst for growth, it's incredibly insightful.
It really changes the game.
It clearly implies that real excellence, breakthrough performance, it's not achieved by just avoiding stress. It's achieved by actively seeking it, confronting it, and consciously using it as fuel. It's a mindset that deeply understands that discomfort, tension, high stakes, They're absolutely necessary for real transformation.
So they're always operating at their peak.
Exactly. It ensures the cleaner is perpetually operating at their absolute peak instead of retreating into comfort or safety. For a business leader, this might mean taking on that seemingly impossible turnaround project.
Or for an inventor, the intense pressure of a deadline for a groundbreaking discovery.
Precisely. Using pressure as a tool.
And crucially, this next one resonates with anyone who's ever hit a roadblock. You don't recognize failure. You know there's more than one way to get what you want.
The reframing of failure. That's huge.
Huge. A cleaner doesn't get embarrassed or ashamed when things don't go according to plan. They definitely don't waste energy blaming others.
So what do?
Their instinct just kicks in immediately. They start looking for other options, finding a different path, figuring out how to make things work in an unexpected way.
Adaptability.
Extreme adaptability. The source uses the example of the initial criticism around Michael Jordan owning the Charlotte Bobcats. Lots of critics were asking if this venture would tarnish his legacy.
Right, the potential downside.
But our guide pushes back, asking this powerful question. How can you fail at something that's never been done when there's no previous measure of success?
Good point. You're setting the benchmark.
Exactly. For a cleaner, every setback is just a new puzzle to solve, an opportunity to redraw the map and get back to work. It's never really the end. It's never over. Just a new challenge to figure out.
That profound resilience, that absolute refusal to see failure as final, that's truly a cornerstone of the cleaner mindset.
It has to be, right?
Absolutely. It's about consistently seeing every obstacle, every missed shot, every perceived failure as nothing more than a situation to resolve, not some insurmountable, paralyzing problem.
Changing the language changes the perspective.
Fundamentally. And that deep, ingrained belief that there's always more than one way to get what you want. That's what empowers them to adapt, to reinvent, to persist relentlessly when others would just throw in the towel.
It's a ruthless pragmatism.
Totally. Ruthless pragmatism in the singular pursuit of their goals, regardless of the initial outcome. You see this in a scientist whose experiment fails, but instead of quitting, she learns, redesigns, tries again.
Or the entrepreneur whose first company crashes, but they use those lessons to build something stronger next time.
Exactly. Failure is just data.
Let's touch on another key trait. You know exactly who you are.
Self-awareness. Crucial.
Super crucial. This speaks to a deep level of self-knowledge, self-acceptance that's just unshakable. A cleaner isn't swayed by media hype, public opinion, what critics say. They're self-made, not defined by others.
Their identity comes from within.
Completely. They understand their strengths, their weaknesses, their ultimate purpose with crystal clarity. And this deep self-knowledge, it stops them from getting distracted by chasing external validation or getting rattled by public scrutiny. It lets them stay focused on their own internal compass.
They're not playing to the crowd.
Not at all. They're not chasing an image. They're just relentlessly living their truth.
Yeah, that self-knowledge is absolutely foundational for a cleaner. It's the inner bedrock, really, that all the other relentless traits are built on.
Makes sense?
When you truly know who you are, what you're capable of, what drives you, all that external noise just becomes irrelevant. This level of self-awareness lets them operate with this unparalleled authenticity, decisiveness, never second-guessing based on what's popular.
It builds that inner conviction.
Exactly. An inner conviction that's pretty much immune to the ups and downs of what other people think. And for an artist, this might mean creating work that's absolutely true to their vision, even if it's not commercially trendy.
Or a leader making tough, unpopular decisions because they know it's right.
With unwavering conviction. That's the power of knowing who you are.
Okay, moving to another crucial piece of the cleaner identity. When everyone is hitting the in case of emergency button, they're all looking for you.
The crisis manager role.
Exactly. This highlights the cleaner as the ultimate go-to person when chaos erupts, when everything's falling apart, and all other solutions have failed. Our source compares it to a military operation. When everything goes wrong, the cleaner doesn't panic.
What do they do instead?
They apparently experience this rush of options. Their mind immediately identifies the most effective way forward. They are the calm eye in the storm. The immediate answer when people are desperate for help. They don't need instructions. They provide the solutions.
That characteristic, it speaks to an extraordinary level of preparation and mental strength, doesn't it?
Absolutely. Like they've rehearsed for chaos.
It implies the cleaner hasn't just anticipated countless scenarios, but they've also cultivated this almost immediate, reflexive, problem-solving capability. While others are frozen by the unexpected, the cleaner just sees a new situation to resolve, immediately accessing this internal toolbox of strategies.
It's not luck.
Definitely not luck. It's about being profoundly ready, having trained their mind to function at its best under extreme stress. In a high-stakes business setting, this is the executive they bring in to save a failing company division.
Or the startup founder who pivots decisively when the market collapses.
Exactly, the one everyone turns to.
Okay, here's a trait that might catch some people off guard. You don't have to love the work, but you're addicted to the results.
Right. This really challenges the whole follow your passion narrative.
Totally. A cleaner isn't necessarily in love with the daily grind, the tedious practice, the uncomfortable sacrifices. What they are addicted to is the outcome, that exquisite rush of achieving exactly what they set out to do.
The feeling of winning.
Precisely. The craving for that result is so intense, so powerful, that it makes the often unpleasant work just irrelevant. The work is just the vehicle needed to get to that ultimate gratification of achievement. This addiction to the win is what fuels their relentless drive, making the pain of the process just fade away.
Yeah, that highlights this profound psychological shift, doesn't it? From being motivated by the process itself to being completely obsessed with the outcome.
Obsessed is a good word.
For a cleaner, the why, that raw feeling of success, is so compelling that the how becomes just a means to an end. Stripped of any emotional baggage, this insatiable hunger for the result means they'll change their whole life, endure any discomfort, make any sacrifice, because that reward of achievement is the only real currency they value.
It's the ultimate payoff.
It is. You see this in a research scientist who puts up with years of failed experiments just for that one breakthrough discovery.
Or the CEO who tolerates endless operational headaches just to expand their empire.
Exactly. The result justifies everything.
Now, for one that's often, I think, really misunderstood, you'd rather be feared than liked.
Ah, yes, the Machiavellian echo.
Kind of. But it's not about being deliberately malicious or cruel. It's about prioritizing respect and effectiveness over just being popular. Our guide says, the greatest compliment to me is, he's an asshole, but he's the best at what he does. Thank you. There is no higher praise for a cleaner.
Wow. Embracing the asshole label.
Embracing it. They fully understand that driving others harder, demanding absolute excellence, holding people to uncomfortable standards, it can make them unpopular, but they accept it because their goal is results, not winning a popularity contest.
Their focus is different.
Completely. They're keenly aware of what people might say about them, and sometimes that criticism actually fuels their drive even more. They get that fear in this context is really just deep respect for their capabilities and an acknowledgement of their unwavering commitment.
What's really fascinating there is that deliberate choice. Choosing a reputation for uncompromising effectiveness, even if it means sacrificing being liked.
It's a conscious trade-off.
It's a profound commentary on leadership and influence, really. A cleaner gets that true respect often comes from consistently delivering at an unparalleled level, even if the methods feel harsh or demanding. This attitude lets them make tough, unpopular calls without hesitation, because they're not constrained by needing external validation or affection.
It speaks to that deep internal control again.
Exactly. A singular focus on the objective, not on the emotional comfort of the people around them. For a venture capitalist, this might mean making ruthless investment decisions.
Or a product designer rejecting perfectly good ideas because they're holding out for something truly great, even if the team disagrees.
Precisely. Effectiveness over affection.
Okay, finally for this section of the 13. You don't celebrate your achievements because you always want more.
Ah, the perpetual striving, never satisfied.
Exactly. This trait just perfectly encapsulates the cleaner's constant state of reaching for the next thing. The sources illustrate this vividly with Michael Jordan again, after winning a championship while everyone else is soaking in the glory. Michael would famously hold up an extra finger, symbolizing the next championship.
Already thinking ahead. Wow.
Instantly. He was already focused on the next season, the next challenge, the next victory. No resting on laurels, no long celebrations. He was, as the source says, never satisfied, never content, always pushing higher and higher. This relentless drive means that for a cleaner, the ultimate prize isn't really the achievement itself.
It's the chase.
It's the journey towards the next one.
Yeah, that really challenges the very human desire to celebrate, to savor success, doesn't it?
Completely.
For a cleaner, past wins aren't destinations. They're just launch pads. It reflects this profound internal compass that constantly resets the target, always pushing them beyond any external measure of success. This perpetual state of striving, where the past is just the foundation for the next conquest. It's a powerful engine for continuous evolution.
No room for complacency.
None at all. The second one goal is hit. The next one is already sharply in focus. You see this in a researcher who, right after a groundbreaking publication, immediately starts planning the next phase of study.
Or a company that, after dominating one market, immediately starts plotting how to enter the next one.
Exactly. Always moving forward. Always wanting more.
Okay, let's shift gears a bit now to a perhaps controversial aspect of this relentless mindset. It's about the power of instinct and what the sources provocatively call the dark side.
Right. This section definitely pushes some boundaries.
It really does. The core command here is simple, almost aggressively simple. You have to stop thinking.
Stop thinking. That sounds counterintuitive.
It does. But the guide argues that overanalysis, getting stuck in your head, is the pervasive enemy of natural ability and peak performance. Think about a simple analogy. If a ball suddenly comes flying at your face,
Yeah.
do you pause? Do you strategize the best defensive move?
No, you just react. Flinch, duck, something.
Exactly. You react immediately. Your body moves without conscious thought. That's pure instinct. It's not something you're taught or untaught. It's just inherent, reflexive.
Like hitting the brakes in traffic.
Perfect example. It's immediate, unreasoned, but effective. The source uses a golf lesson scenario, too. You might start with a perfectly natural swing, but after getting tons of technical instructions, trying to consciously apply every single one,
You tie yourself in knots.
you ruin your natural ability by overthinking it. Instinct, on the other hand, when you just know, you can act decisively. No hesitation, no need for instructions, and that is the ultimate path to operating in the zone, where it's just you and your finely honed instincts, focused and utterly unemotional.
When we connect that to the broader idea of human mastery, it strongly suggests that true peak performance isn't necessarily about conscious control or intellectual processing right in the critical moment.
Right, it's something else.
It's about training yourself so intensely that your actions become deeply ingrained, reflexive, intuitive. It's about consciously shedding that cognitive burden, that overthinking that often hinders spontaneous, effective action.
So less thinking can be more effective.
This perspective directly challenges the conventional wisdom that more thinking always leads to better outcomes. It argues that excessive deliberation can actually strip away that natural primal ability that makes someone truly great. It stops you from fully getting into the zone, where all distractions, external and internal, just vanish, allowing for pure, unadulterated execution.
Okay, now here's where it gets really provocative, maybe even a bit uncomfortable for some listeners.
Yeah, buckle up for this part.
The source makes this incredibly bold claim: we're all born bad, born relentless, taught to relent.
Wow, born bad, born relentless.
Yeah, it suggests our natural primordial state is one of pure, unadulterated instinct. A raw, uncompromising drive that just manifests without any analysis or societal filtering. Think about a baby.
Right.
Does a baby analyze its needs? Politely ask for food? No, it just screams.
Exactly, until it gets immediate satisfaction. Babies act purely on their needs. No planning, no deciding, they just know. This, the source says, is the untamed dark side of your instinct. And according to this philosophy, you cannot be great without it.
So greatness requires tapping into that untamed part.
That's the argument. We are, in a sense, like a lion in a cage, safe, tame, predictable. But our natural inclination, our deepest drive, is to stalk, hunt, attack.
And the cage isn't real bars.
No, the cage that holds us back isn't steel. It's metaphorical, built from bad advice and low self-esteem and bullshit rules and tortured thinking about what you can't do or what you're supposed to do.
Self-imposed limitations.
Exactly. This constant societal conditioning, the push to be good, to conform, it often suppresses the very urges and innate drives that are absolutely necessary for elite, relentless performance. It reframes this dark side, not as evil, but as an untamed, powerful force just waiting to be uncaged and channeled. That provocative idea, it forces us to ask a really deep question. Is being good, adhering to societal norms, actually a barrier to achieving greatness?
Is conformity the enemy of excellence?
The source strongly suggests it is. That societal conditioning, trying to create order and conformity, often inadvertently stamps out the very raw urges and primal drives needed for elite performance. It frames this dark side not as negative or evil, but as an essential, untamed power.
So it's about unleashing it.
It urges deep introspection, really. What internal forces might you be inadvertently suppressing? And could strategically releasing and channeling them in a controlled way unlock a whole new level of potential. It challenges us to reconsider our deepest drives, see them as power sources, not impulses to be squashed.
So what does this actually mean then when we talk about this powerful dark side? It's really crucial to get this right. It's not about being evil or reckless or destructive in the usual sense.
Right, it's more nuanced.
Much more. It's defined as an undeniable force driving your actions, the part of you that refuses to be ordinary, the piece that stays raw and untamed. It's about acknowledging and then deliberately harnessing those intense, often raw desires for success, power, dominance, whatever it is you truly crave, and channeling them into incredibly focused, controlled power.
That control's key.
Absolutely key. Unlike the cooler, who often fights their dark side and loses, or the closer, who might see it but struggles to control it, the cleaner harnesses his dark side into raw, controlled power.
They master it.
They master it, and it's not accidental. It's a deliberate, voluntary transformation, like turning into your personal alter ego. The source uses examples like the Hulk going green or Batman putting on the cape.
Shedding inhibitions.
Completely,
Got it.
dropping all inhibitions to perform instinctively at an extraordinary level. No fear, no limitation, just pure action and results. But the absolute key is profound self-control. A cleaner meticulously controls their urges. They are emphatically not controlled by them.
That's the critical distinction.
It is. This exceptional ability to direct their deepest, most primal desires, rather than being swept away, is what fundamentally separates a cleaner. The source is clear. Everyone has this dark side. Secrets, strategic moves, desires, maybe greed, ego, lust for things you're not supposed to want, but a cleaner masterfully learns to leverage it.
What's truly fascinating there is that nuanced distinction between just uncontrolled urges and what the source calls controlled power.
Yeah, they're not the same thing at all.
A cleaner, through rigorous self-awareness and immense discipline, is shown as someone who uses their dark side not as a master dictating their moves, but as a finely tuned tool under their command.
A weapon in their arsenal.
Exactly. It's not about denying or suppressing these intense desires, but about strategically directing them for maximum impact, making conscious, deliberate choices about when and how to deploy this formidable inner force. This idea radically challenges the conventional notion that these intense primal drives are inherently bad or destructive. It suggests instead they're just raw, immense energy waiting for precise, controlled direction to achieve extraordinary things.
Like harnessing a wild river for power.
That's a great analogy. In a corporate world, this is the relentless ambition to dominate a market or the cunning needed to outplay competitors. Controlled, directed force.
Okay, let's really dig into this with a powerful and very public example. The idea of the mask and what happens when it slips.
Right, the Tiger Woods example.
Exactly. Our sources argue that a cleaner often operates by wearing this carefully constructed mask. They project a specific public image while meticulously keeping their powerful dark side completely private.
Maintaining control over perception.
Precisely. And the Tiger Woods scandal is presented as this stark, tragic illustration of what happens when that mask is suddenly forcibly ripped away.
It was a huge public event.
Massive. And before it all happened, Tiger Woods was the absolute embodiment of a cleaner, commanding fear, respect, this almost mythical presence on the golf course. But, as our source explains it, when his intensely private life became this public spectacle, his dark side evaporated. Why? Because as the philosophy states, that kind of energy simply can't survive in the light.
Exposure weakens it.
That's the argument. With the whole world watching, judging, dissecting every intimate detail, that raw, untamed energy that fueled his unparalleled dominance just lost its power. His game tragically fell apart. He just couldn't operate with that internal force laid bare.
When we connect that to the broader implications of performance, it suggests something profound. That the unique power of this dark side is intrinsically tied to its privacy, its secrecy.
It needs the shadows.
It seems so. Once it's fully exposed to public scrutiny, judgment, the expectations of conventional morality, its effectiveness just plummets. The only exception, the source implies, is if someone possesses this radical, almost superhuman level of so what attitude, a complete indifference to what anyone thinks.
Like Charles Barkley.
Exactly. The sources draw that sharp contrast with Barkley's famously defiant response after a public incident. He notoriously joked, "I shouldn't have thrown him through the first-floor window. I should have taken him to the third-floor window and finished the job from there."
Completely unapologetic.
Utterly unyielding. That highlights the rare cleaners who remain completely indifferent to public perception. It's a unique quality that allows their powerful dark side energy to persist and thrive, even when fully exposed to that harsh light of public scrutiny.
So what's the bottom line then when we talk about the relentless work ethic?
Well, the mandate from the sources is just unequivocal.
Absolutely. No ifs, ands, or buts.
None. No excuses. No procrastination. No half efforts. Our guide's philosophy is unwavering. Every day you have to do something you don't want to do. Every day.
That relentless discomfort again.
Always. And he meticulously explains that insidious compounding effect of putting things off. If you let yourself skip today's uncomfortable task, otherwise the next day you're going to have 2 things you don't want to do, then 3 and 4 and 5, and pretty soon you can't even get back to the first thing.
It snowballs really fast.
Creates overwhelming physical and mental barriers. He even jokingly admits, remember, that for his elite clients, he embodies the thing they don't want to do.
The daily reminder of discomfort.
Exactly. That consistent, demanding, non-negotiable engagement with discomfort as a daily discipline.
What's really fascinating here is that profound emphasis on consistent, almost ritualistic engagement with discomfort as the absolute bedrock of progress.
It's not about big, heroic one-off things.
No, it's about the relentless, often tedious daily grind, whether that's in the gym, the office, the studio, wherever. It starkly highlights that even at the very top levels of achievement, the focus is entirely on a complete, absolute rejection of coddling for yourself and for others.
No mollycoddling allowed.
None! It mandates this unyielding commitment to just showing up and doing what's necessary day in, day out, regardless of whether you feel like it or if it's comfortable. And that builds this enduring resilience, this profound mental toughness that meticulously prepares you for any challenge, no matter how big.
Okay, now this next part, it gets really intense. It depicts a physical and mental grind that is absolutely not for the faint of heart.
Prepare yourself.
Our sources describe a training regimen for these elite athletes that pushes them to their absolute limits. Take Kobe Bryant's legendary dedication, for instance.
The 90-minute workouts.
A full 90 minutes, with a meticulous 30 minutes dedicated solely to his wrists, fingers, and ankles. Remember, sweating the details.
It's still mind-boggling. 30 minutes on just those.
It wasn't about raw strength. It was an obsessive pursuit of microscopic improvements, fine-tuning every single element. Kobe would constantly push, never satisfied, always asking, "What we got left?" That level of specificity and endurance, even for someone already elite, shows an unparalleled, relentless pursuit of perfection.
And then there's Grover's approach.
Yeah, his unflinching, almost brutal approach to training. If you were to pass out mid-session, he's not standing over you to coax you back onto your feet with compassion and support.
No smelling salts.
No. He'll check your breathing, and then I'm leaving you right there. When you finally come around, you've cleaned up your puke, come find me, and we can get back to work.
Wow. Zero softness.
Zero. And he makes it unequivocally clear. Cooperation is mandatory. Illustrating this with the blunt command, "Get in the fucking tub," referring to the mandatory ice baths. This brutal, uncompromising standard, pushing already great athletes beyond near perfection. That's how they find that tiny critical edge.
When we connect this to the broader landscape of peak performance, it powerfully shows that even at the very highest levels, the unwavering focus stays on those microscopic, incremental improvements and a complete, absolute rejection of coddling or conventional comfort.
Yeah, it makes you wonder.
It immediately compels us to ask, what unique and powerful internal drive allows someone not just to endure, but to actively embrace such an extreme level of discomfort, such a complete absence of external validation?
It's a different breed.
It speaks to a deep, unshakable internal commitment that understands profoundly that true growth, true transformation often lies far beyond the usual limits of comfort or compassion, or even what most people would consider reasonable. It's an almost Spartan philosophy of self-improvement, choosing the path of maximum resistance for maximum gain.
So what does this all mean for people always looking for the easy way, the shortcut to success?
Well, the sources are brutally blunt about that. There are no secrets, no easy buttons, absolutely no tricks.
So how does success happen then?
They argue it's remarkably simple in principle. Ask yourself where you are now and where you want to be instead. Ask yourself what you're willing to do to get there. Then make a plan to get there. Act on it.
Simple, but not easy.
Not easy at all. They completely dismiss things like 5 minutes a day programs or easy at home workouts, call them total bullshit and insults.
Harsh words again.
Very. They explain these are workouts that work for people who have nothing to lose, meaning people so out of shape that any activity shows some initial results. But that, they stress, is not real fitness, not genuine sustainable progress. It's a fundamental misunderstanding of what real effort actually requires.
What's really fascinating here is that almost philosophical rejection of convenience, the constant desire for shortcuts.
Yeah, it pushes back hard against that.
It frames the relentless pursuit of greatness, not as some natural right, but as an earned privilege.
Yeah.
Meticulously built, brick by painful brick, through consistently mastering those mundane, often difficult tasks that most people actively try to avoid.
You have to earn your stripes.
Absolutely. This comes through powerfully in the elephants versus pigs analogy. You absolutely must wrestle the pigs first, the dirty, scrappy, foundational issues, the uncomfortable basics, before you can even think about fighting the elephants, which are the heavy, high-stakes, ultimate challenges.
So you can't skip steps.
The profound insight is you cannot be truly ready to compete at the highest level if you try to start with the elephants. You'll inherently lack the fundamental knowledge, the essential skills, the critical mental toughness that you can only build through the hard process of mastering the pigs. It really emphasizes there's a natural, unskippable, hard-earned progression. Trying to bypass those foundational steps, it inevitably leads to failure when you face real high-stakes challenges.
Okay, let's really dig into another powerful cleaner principle now. Specialization.
Yeah.
And it's distilled into this powerful phrase, I do this.
Right, the power of focus.
Immense power. It speaks to singular focus, becoming the absolute best at one specific thing. Our guide tells his clients, I want to make you excellent at this one thing. You can be average and above average at the other things. But when people talk about someone who can do this, you're going to be the first name on the list.
So not about being a jack of all trades.
Definitely not. It's about becoming indispensable in your niche. Think about the sniper analogy the source provides.
Okay.
One person out there alone, meticulously practicing their craft over and over, hitting a target 400 yards away, dead center. No one knows what this guy does every day to be this good. People just know he can deliver results. That's the level of singular, obsessive focus and quiet dedication we're talking about.
That's intense specialization.
Totally. Kobe Bryant exemplified this absolute clarity his whole career. I give out numbers. His job is to score points and give out those numbers, and that's what he does. Simple, focused. This stands in stark contrast to what the source calls dabblers, people who are good at keeping busy, but never succeed at anything substantial because they're always spreading their effort too thin, never achieving mastery anywhere.
Yeah, when you connect that to the broader picture of competence and impact, it's a powerful argument against spreading yourself too thin. It argues for profound mastery of a specific critical skill.
Be the best at one thing.
It fundamentally implies that true mastery, unstoppable competence, it doesn't come from being generally okay across many fields. It comes from intense, almost obsessive focus on a narrow critical area. This singular dedication builds that undeniable reputation where you become the absolute go-to person for that one thing.
Indispensable value.
Exactly. A level of value you simply can't achieve by being merely good at lots of things. It also points powerfully to the internal drive needed for that focus, that inherent ability to ignore the million distractions that pull most people into a comfortable but ultimately mediocre existence.
Like the artist who relentlessly perfects one technique.
Or the business owner who masters a single product line before even thinking of expanding. Deep focus.
So what does all this mean when it comes to actually competing and leading, especially from this cleaner perspective?
Right. How does it play out in action?
Well, a cleaner fundamentally does not compete with anyone. Instead, they set the unwavering standard, and then everyone else is forced to compete with them.
They dictate the terms.
Completely. The core strategy, according to the source, is to make everyone else get on your level. You're not going down to theirs. For a cleaner, there are no meaningless games, no casual moments. Every single interaction is seen as a critical chance to prove yourself, assert dominance, and force your will.
Every moment counts.
Every moment. A perfect, if brutal, example. Dwyane Wade fouling Kobe Bryant in the 2012 All-Star Game. Breaking his nose, causing a concussion.
In an all-star game, wow.
Right. This wasn't an accident or a mistake. It was a cleaner attacking, a raw killer instinct kicking in, making an undeniable statement. It was Dwyane in an exhibition game basically declaring, I own this is what I do, no hard feelings, but this is my standard. Even in a supposedly lighthearted game, it's about proving absolute dominance.
What's profoundly fascinating there is the complete internalization of competition. For a cleaner, It's not about external benchmarks or reacting to others. It's driven by this unyielding, self-imposed internal standard that others are then relentlessly forced to try and meet.
It puts the pressure on everyone else.
Totally, which immediately brings up that significant question. How does this intensely self-focused mindset avoid just becoming pure arrogance? How does it stay focused on continuous internal improvement?
Yeah, what's the check and balance?
It seems rooted in such an unshakable self-belief, such an unparalleled commitment to excellence, that external competition just becomes the stage to demonstrate an already established, internally driven superiority. This relentless assertion of dominance leaves absolutely no room for others to set the terms. The cleaner sets the rules of engagement.
Okay, this next insight from the sources. It's truly captivating. It shows how cleaners also master the subtle art of intimidation, often without saying a single word.
Psychological warfare.
Exactly. Michael Jordan, our guide asserts, had the best technique he'd ever seen. A silent, psychological weapon they called the Black Cat.
The Black Cat. Intriguing.
Before certain crucial playoff games, Michael would quietly, almost eerily, just walk into the opposing team's locker room. Stay for maybe a minute, briefly shake a few hands, but no real pleasantries, and then just leave. The source notes he didn't care about saying hello to anyone, especially before a game.
So just his presence was the weapon.
Exactly. This seemingly simple act had this profound, devastating psychological effect. The whole place would suddenly go completely silent. Everyone and everything just stopped. The opposing players, they were no longer opponents. They were instantly transformed into just a bunch of fans in awe, their minds now consumed by thoughts of him instead of their own game plan.
Wow. That's incredible manipulation.
Isn't it? Players who might score 20 points one night could suddenly only score 2 against the Bulls, then miraculously be back to 20 the next game. This wasn't just about defense, it was pure mental disruption. Tiger Woods, pre-scandal, had a similar presence on the golf course. He walked onto that course as if it were built for him. His mere presence was intimidating.
Yeah, when you connect that to competitive strategy, it's a profound demonstration of psychological warfare at its absolute most effective.
Beating them before the game even starts.
Precisely. It vividly highlights how a cleaner's mere presence, their reputation alone, can fundamentally change the entire competitive dynamic, creating this self-fulfilling prophecy of their dominance. It suggests the real battle often happens from the neck up, inside the opponent's head, where the cleaner's unwavering confidence, their track record, their cultivated mystique, it can completely erode the opponent's focus long before any actual play begins.
It's a testament to the immense power of reputation and that carefully built aura of invincibility.
Absolutely. Intangible, but incredibly powerful.
Okay, let's really unpack this with another striking example of Michael Jordan's leadership style, which was, well, anything but conventional.
Yeah, he wasn't exactly known for coddling.
Not even close. He famously didn't baby his teammates. He elevated them through sheer force of will, demanding they consistently rise to his uncompromising standard. His message was crystal clear, relentlessly applied. I'm not bringing my game down so you can look better. You bring your game up so you can look better.
Tough love, extreme edition.
You could say that. Think about the legendary story of Scott Burrell, a part-time player in the training room, supposedly with a hamstring issue. Michael, without hesitating, storms in, grabs the training table with Scott still on it, and flips it completely over, yelling, "Are you a basketball player or a fucking hamstring? Get your fucking ass in the fucking practice now."
Wow. That's borderline terrifying leadership.
Right. But while the approach was undeniably brutal, the outcome was equally undeniable. Michael's teammates consistently had career-best performances playing with him. However, as the source points out, almost all of them returned to their natural skill level, physically and mentally, after he left. Why? No Michael, no relentless pressure, nobody holding them accountable.
So their peak performance was dependent on his pressure.
It seems so. And this uncompromising demand extended even to trust. Michael famously punched Steve Kerr in the face during a heated practice scrimmage.
He punched his teammate.
Yeah. But instead of backing down, Kerr stood up to him. And that earned Michael's profound respect. Crucially, Kerr became his most trusted teammate for critical, game-winning shots later on.
That whole dynamic, it forces us to ask, is this intense, tough love leadership really effective long-term? Or does it just border on tyranny?
It's a fine line, isn't it?
It is. The source strongly suggests that while it was undeniably uncomfortable, even brutal, it forced others to reach levels they just couldn't sustain on their own, implying a ruthless but incredibly effective form of accountability. It also highlights that trust, for a cleaner like Jordan, isn't given freely, it's meticulously earned. through a willingness to stand firm, match their intensity, show unwavering commitment, even if it means direct confrontation.
So it's not about being liked.
Emphatically not. It's singularly about forging a collective unit capable of operating at the absolute highest level possible, pushing every single person beyond their perceived limits. You could see this in a demanding creative director pushing their team to uncomfortable breakthroughs.
Or a startup founder imposing extreme discipline on early employees just to survive.
Exactly. Results over comfort.
So what's the final word then when it comes to total accountability?
Well, the cleaner lives by that absolute credo. I own this,
No exceptions.
no exceptions.
Yeah.
They accept total, unqualified responsibility for everything that happens, good and bad. If there's going to be a mistake, the philosophy dictates, you have to be the one to make it so you can turn it around immediately,
Taking ownership even of potential mistakes.
even potential ones. Our guide, Tim Grover himself, rigorously applies this. When Kobe Bryant had a rare off game, Grover didn't look at Kobe to figure out what went wrong. Instead, he immediately internalized the pressure, constantly scrutinizing his own methods, asking himself, I have to ask if we did something to affect his shot. Maybe one of the exercises is affecting his movement. My responsibility, not his.
Wow. That's next level accountability.
Isn't it? It's about having the profound confidence to openly admit when you've screwed up, because paradoxically, people will genuinely respect you for it.
Yeah.
The principle is clear. If you did it, own it. If you said it, stand by it. That's your reputation. This unyielding personal accountability is just a hallmark of the cleaner.
What's truly fascinating there is the complete inversion of how accountability usually works.
Yeah, normally people point fingers outward.
Exactly. Instead of projecting blame onto circumstances or other people, the cleaner, or their guide in this case, rigorously internalizes it. They view every setback, every less than perfect result, as a direct challenge to their own capabilities, their own methods.
Have no time wasted on excuses.
Zero time wasted on excuses, finger-pointing, justifying. It's a mindset singularly focused on self-correction and continuous proactive improvement, reflecting an exceptionally deep personal investment in every single outcome. It powerfully reinforces the idea that true ultimate control, and therefore the power to change things, originates entirely from within.
Okay, now here's where it gets really introspective, maybe a little sobering. The true price of all this relentlessness.
Right. There's always a cost.
Our sources are candid about the often unseen darker side of this unwavering chase for greatness. When you're never satisfied, life can be lonely.
Lonely at the top.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Achieving everything you ever dreamed of, reaching the absolute pinnacle, often doesn't bring that imagined lasting happiness. Why? Because nobody else understands what you went through or what you did to get there.
That disconnect.
Yeah. You might have it all, the fame, the fortune, the titles.
Right.
But you hit this stark realization that very few people, maybe none, truly get the sacrifices, the brutal work, the singular focus that it took. The path to being unstoppable is almost by definition often a solitary one, driven by an internal standard that few others can really comprehend, let alone share or truly empathize with.
That observation, it immediately prompts that important question. Is this relentless, all-consuming pursuit of extraordinary success actually fulfilling on an emotional, personal level?
Or does the addiction to results just take over?
Or does that insatiable craving for results for the next win inherently replace emotional satisfaction, creating this perpetual state of never satisfied that, yes, drives unparalleled greatness, but might also profoundly isolate the individual?
Yeah, the source strongly implies that the unique, unyielding path of a cleaner, always pushing beyond norms, beyond conventional limits, naturally separates them from people who operate within more traditional, comfortable boundaries.
It hints at this deep, maybe inherent internal void that can't be fully filled by external wins or even normal relationships, but only by the next, even harder conquest.
Okay, let's dig into another profound aspect. The sources tackle the very real risk of burnout, especially for highly competitive people who push themselves so hard, often from a young age.
Right, burnout is a huge issue.
But then they immediately throw this fascinating and quite controversial curveball, a philosophy that directly challenges how we think about life stages.
Which is?
Childhood is overrated.
Yeah.
You can have much better childhood as an adult when you have the freedom and the affluence to enjoy it. Wow, childhood is overrated. That's bold.
Isn't it? The radical argument is that there's this very small window to be a legend, a finite time where you should commit to pushing as far and hard as possible, making significant sacrifices of normal experiences. But the promise is, after this intense period, You then have decades, a whole lifetime, to truly enjoy what you meticulously built, to act like a carefree kid at any age, but now with the unprecedented freedom and resources that came from that earlier uncompromising success.
The sacrifice now, play much harder later.
That's the idea. It's a radical reframing of work-life balance, fundamentally prioritizing peak performance during a finite, intense window with the clear promise of future enduring reward.
Yeah, when you connect that to the bigger picture of personal development, societal expectations,
Yeah.
it presents this remarkably stark, almost transactional view of life stages.
Like investing heavily early for massive future returns.
Exactly. It unequivocally prioritizes peak performance and intense output during a clearly defined, finite window, often at the explicit expense of typical life experiences and conventional fun. Yet it offers that compelling promise of a potentially more profound and enduring future satisfaction. It directly challenges the common societal expectation of, continuous, balanced enjoyment throughout life, proposing instead this focused period of extreme exertion and sacrifice for a deferred but potentially far greater payoff. It's a challenging, almost brutal personal investment calculation.
So what does this all mean for legacy, for that relentless drive for constant evolution?
Well, our guide's own story is a powerful, living example of this relentless adaptation.
Tim Grover's story.
Yeah. A basketball player himself, big dreams, faced a devastating setback. Torn ACL, botched rehab, chronic issues. Basically ended his playing career.
Heartbreaking for an athlete.
Absolutely. Yet he calls this experience his greatest weakness that would, paradoxically, become my greatest strength. He didn't just give up. He immediately redirected that immense drive, from playing the game to meticulously training the very best to play it.
He pivoted hard.
Completely.
Yeah.
And he refused to be boxed in by labels like gym teacher or personal trainer. He redefined his role, proudly calling himself a physical architect who constructs a body from the inside out. His focus became, how do I rebuild that shoulder? How do I structure that physique so it's stronger and more durable and powerful than ever before?
Building better athletes from the ground up.
Exactly. This continuous battle for supremacy, this unwavering commitment to evolution and reinvention, it's inherent to the cleaner mindset, even when they go their separate ways from teammates or partners. Because for a cleaner, as the source says, it's never over.
What's truly fascinating there is that profound idea that major setbacks aren't endings. They're just powerful prompts for redirection, reinvention, a total rethink of your purpose.
Turning adversity into advantage.
It profoundly reflects the cleaner's fundamental, unwavering belief that there's always more than one way to get what you want, even when facing seemingly insurmountable personal challenges. This exceptional ability to transform a personal weakness into a profound, enabling strength and to constantly redefine your role, your expertise, your purpose. It offers this powerful, enduring lesson in resilience, adaptability, strategic self-reinvention.
Yeah, it underscores that true mastery isn't static. It's a continuous dynamic process, learning, evolving, adapting, perpetually finding new ways to dominate, regardless of the circumstances.
Okay, we've taken an intense, truly uncompromising deep dive today into this world of unrelenting performance, seen through the eyes of someone who pushes the world's absolute best to be even better.
Yeah, it's been quite a journey through that mindset.
We've explored the profound power of embracing discomfort, the unyielding, results-driven force of that cleaner archetype, the potent and often misunderstood power of instinct and the dark side, and the absolute non-negotiable necessity of just doing the work day in, day out without compromise.
And we've thoroughly unpacked how enduring success isn't primarily about innate talent, is it? It's about an insatiable addiction to results, a radical willingness to be feared rather than just liked, and an unwavering, absolute commitment to total responsibility for every single outcome.
Yeah.
This uncompromising mindset, it fundamentally challenges so many conventional ideas about motivation, comfort, even leadership. It demands this internal standard that just transcends all external validation and drives this constant, almost primal pursuit of more.
So as you, the listener, reflect on the powerful and, let's be honest, often uncomfortable truths we've dug into today, ask yourself, what is your dark side, that untamed, undeniable force inside you that refuses to be ordinary? And are you truly willing to embrace the discomfort needed to unleash your own relentless potential? Are you waiting for permission, for external validation, or are you ready to just declare, I own this, and take that decisive leap, knowing that for a true cleaner, no problem is always an option because you will always find a solution?
And this journey into relentlessness, it really compels us to consider one final crucial question for you, the listener. If everything you truly need to succeed is already inside you, just waiting to be uncaged and channeled. What is that singular one thing you are absolutely willing to dedicate yourself to becoming the undisputed best at?
Yeah, what's your thing?
Regardless of the inevitable discomfort, the potential criticism, or even the profound loneliness of that relentless path. What small, uncomfortable, yet decisive step can you take today to begin training your mind, to train your body, to embrace what others avoid, and to definitively transform your own perceived problems into situations to resolve?